replotting, rewriting my very first fantasy romance novel. I got some feedback and wanted to restructure the book so it would be in more alignment with industry standards for fantasy romance. In this last video, I replotted my whole entire book using Save the Cat. I beefed up some of the stakes, I reworked the romance plot with this book, Romance the Beat. Then what I did was I put it all in Scrivener, and that is this video today. And basically start to finish kind of tutorial of setting up a new Scrivener document, customizing it, making it look cute, adding some flair, adding photos, the whole thing, and how I structured my Scrivener document based on all of the Save the Cat beats and plotting. I will walk you through it step by step. Hopefully this will make writing my next version of this draft much easier. It's all broken down into every plot point that I need to hit, the percentage, the page numbers, all that kind of jazz. So let's get to it. Let's replot my book in Scrivener. Okay, so we're gonna start with opening up Scrivener, and this is what it looks like. You can choose from fiction, non-fiction, script writing, all these different options, miscellaneous. If you go into all of them, there will be different options. I chose fiction and a novel. If your novel has parts, you can choose that and it will already be set up, or you can just choose a basic novel and add them afterwards. I am saving this as the July version of this book. It is These Curse Stands Between Us, Book 1. I started this rewrite in July 2025. When you create it, it has a lot of like manual information, how to use this template, and this is kind of what it's set up as. So it has a section for characters, it has a section for places, and it has template sheets for each of these. So you want to make sure that you copy or duplicate them, because if you just move them, then you won't have the original template for later. So I always like duplicate a version. My main character's name is Ariadne. Everyone calls her Aria for short. So that's my first character in here. So we're just kind of setting up the basics of everything, and I'll duplicate it. But my main male character, his name is Theophanes, but everyone calls him Theo. So just gonna go ahead and add a bunch of these. So for your book, add all of your main characters into the character section and just start with that. Just as many as you want. Some of these I put like Ariadne's dad because I did not decide on his name at this point. He's had like multiple names and I just move on from that. So Lila is one of my other main characters. She is the other female lead in my series. She has her own storyline in a different kingdom with a different romance, and she is a griffin rider and has her own world and own life and her own adventures that she will go on. My book has a witch clan. It is a group of 4 women who are all secretly witches who were going to university at the Library of Alexandria, learning their magic and learning to become basically initiated into this witch clan that protected ancient and magical artifacts of the Library of Alexandria, and they kind of hid it under the guise of a regular operating school, and kind of the whole magical element was very much kept under wraps. And we have a lot of different human witches, fae, in this series of mine, the Keys of Sophos. So these are my other witchlings in it. We have Neve, Brina, and Seraphine, and they all have different cultural backgrounds because in my world, lots of people from all over the world came to study. If you were a witch, this was the best place to send your daughter basically to a boarding school to become part of the witch clan that ran the Library of Alexandria and the university. There's a whole thing. So anyways, those are all my different characters, and now you can go into places and basically just any location that your characters get up to. So in my book, we have my main character's workshop. She is a weaver, seamstress kind of gal. She makes clothes. Then we have her home. We have the Great Library, or the Library of Alexandria, the Royal Palace of Alexandria. Since my book takes place in multiple kingdoms at the same time, I definitely was indicating where every one of these are. I didn't want to give away too much information on all of this. So I am actually thinking of doing a step-by-step plotting video with the ACOTAR series, just so that I could completely spoil everything, because this is my book series. I don't want to spoil everything, but you get the gist. Places, characters, create them all. Everything in your book, every location you go to, every character who comes in, create a template profile for them. After you've made all the templates that go into this, I would start out, like, don't get into the nitty-gritty of like really building out the templates right away, because it will definitely like take up a lot of your time. So this is what I did through using this Save the Cat beat sheet. I already in this video went and plotted everything. So what I decided to do was basically just set up my entire Scrivener in the Save the Cat beat sheet, and not necessarily focus so much on writing chapter by chapter, but writing beat by beat. What I did next is just added in all of the different beats and basically where they would be chapter by chapter, but you can kind of move those around once you get into it. So chapter 1 would obviously have the opening image. That's the first beat. It's the opening snapshot of who your hero is and their world. So in chapter 1, we would also have setup, just kind of showing our main characters in their regular life. Also for the first chapter, which I think I later moved this to like the second chapter, but one of the early on things will be the theme stated. Easiest way to just like keep going is like just duplicating everything. That's what I find super easy. So chapter 2, now we're not going to be on the opening image anymore, so we can trash that one. Don't need it, but we will have more setup. And so in my book, the theme stated is done by my main character's dad. It was good to like have that ahead of time and like have everything all brainstormed out, and then when I'm working on this rewrite, it's like, oh, I already have that. I already have the exact dialogue that goes along with the theme stated. So that was fun. This can happen. Sometimes I have a problem where if you accidentally move stuff too much in Scrivener, things go into like the wrong place. They're not in like the main part of the setup. So I was trying to find like another way to do this, but I'm not a Scrivener expert. I just have been using it for a while, and I have looked up some more things to figure out how to do that. But basically I just find that you can literally just move stuff back. It just like sometimes takes a little bit of patience. I didn't have anything written in this section yet, so I just deleted it and remade a new one in the correct little layer there. But yeah, so now we have our chapter 1, our chapter 2, and we have our opening image setup, more setup, and our theme stated. So one of the cool things you can do in Scrivener is add a lot of media to your individual document. So I had an image for my opening image, and you're able to kind of like put it right in there. So this is the picture of what my opening image is. It's my main character in her workshop. She's like got clothes that are being dyed to certain colors. She's working on some commissioned orders for specific dresses, and she's kind of, you can see like everything's kind of a mess. There's stuff everywhere, and we're talking about the light streaming in through the coverings. Now this is not like an exact picture of what I wanted, but I went on Pinterest, just like looked around, had some concepts of this so that I could really capture the vibes of what I wanted my opening image to be. Now when you're doing the opening image, you also want to be thinking about your final image, which is the last component, the last thing you'll see in the book. This is the first book in the series, and so my final image of the whole series will obviously be different, but I decided to go with an opening image where my character is alone, because she is very isolated in the beginning of her story, and part of her like journey is finding community, friends, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to show a opening sequence where she is very alone, and she thinks that that's great. She is introverted, she likes it, it's good, but it's kind of like she doesn't know what she's missing yet. So I wanted to be able to show her very isolated. She's doing her current profession, which is like not what she planned, but it it's working out great. And she is like pretty content with her life. She has goals, she has things she's working towards, but she's not like, I hate my life, you know? And what I wanted was the opening image to portray that, but then the final image, I wanted to be the opposite. Like, I wanted her to be like surrounded by people and in a good way and doing something she's really passionate about rather than just like something she enjoys and likes, something with like more purpose. So it's like, you know, you're content where you are, you're comfortable in your little shell, but by the end of it, you didn't know you needed what you needed. You didn't know what you were missing out on by not having that thing that you end up finding in your story arc. So this is what I have. Then I just put in brief description of what she's doing in the little notes section below it, because I don't want to share all of the plot points of my book. Like, this opening image is kind of like all I'm giving you about my book, which is why I feel like I want to do this again, but with the ACOTAR series, or at least the first ACOTAR book, because Save the Cat actually did like a whole analysis of that. So I have all the like beats and everything. It would be so fun. What I ended up doing for the rest of my plotting is I added in on each section, so the opening image, I added in Save the Cat's information and I highlighted it. So it's better to start in the middle of things. Like, it's all their advice basically in Save the Cat. In my last video about plotting, I went through and I found all the information in the Save the Cat book of like, what do they recommend doing? You know, what are all the tips so that when I'm writing, I have them all ready. So I did that. So here I am. I kind of already explained this to you, but like, I just wrote more and more notes for myself in this little note section about how my character feels, what they're experiencing, and all of that kind of stuff, and just kind of like made it look better, made it easier for me for when I was writing the sequence. I added little bullet points for different things about how my character was feeling and what, you know, I wanted to make sure I got across in this scene. When you go back into the chapter view, so you can do that by literally just clicking on the chapter header, like for chapter 1 over here on the little sidebar, and you can actually change the way that you can view each of the scenes inside the chapter. So what I ended up doing was going in to each one of these, so you can actually flip between the photo like option to see and words. And so I ended up going into each one, like putting all that information about the opening image into that chapter 1 and showing it like right up front. Basically what I went through is each and every component of the scenes, I just put the main details of like what that is. So setup reveals the main character's ordinary life, their before shot. So then I went through and copied that into the other areas where I had these set up, and then I just went through all of them. So theme stated, a line of dialogue that organically states what your story is about, and I put lots of little details about it all, and then I did this for all of them. That is how I feel like I really liked the way I set all of this up. So if we just go through, then we have our catalyst, our debate section, and my catalyst happens in chapter 3, so we put that in there. So basically what I ended up doing is continuing down chapter by chapter into breaking down my Save the Cat beats. So chapter 3, the catalyst, the debate, chapter 4, the debate, and breaking into chapter 2. Like, some of these we have more debate, we have more catalyst, we have all of that, whatever. Like, you can keep moving, but putting the description of exactly what each of them are into the chapter view, so that when I click on it, we already have this information set into the Scrivener document. And this is like how I plan to set up all of mine in the future, so that all of the like basic plotting information is already in my document. So then I really went through and did it for every single chapter. Since I had already plotted all of this ahead of time, it was pretty simple to do this whole process. It took quite a few hours, not gonna lie, but that's what we did. And I think it will be so helpful for my future books that I start, and now I can just kind of duplicate this, like copy it and just delete all this stuff out, like, you know what I mean? Make it almost like a template and just continue. So I did all the basic like big information all the way down to my finale. So then what I did is you go onto Save the Cat website and you're gonna use their beat mapper. I always find it like easier to just Google it because sometimes I don't know where it is when I get in here. And then you want to choose novel if you're writing a novel like me. So I chose novel, and I want my book to be about 450 pages, and then you hit map it. And it shows you like what page each of these beats should be on. So my opening image 1 to 4, theme stated 22. If you want more information on each of these ones, like this is where I ended up getting like, okay, this is about like when you hit 5% of your novel. I also have like more information in other places on the website about what it is besides just like these 2 little sentences. But you can go through each of these and see what page it's supposed to be on, all that kind of stuff. So you can actually print this if you want and save it, but I went through and in Scrivener on the notes section here, I put in exactly what page they should be on and what percentage it is. I just wanted to have all that information like listed for me. That was really helpful so that when I'm writing or when I'm adding in like parts of my draft that I've already written, I can kind of make sure, am I staying on target with the pacing? Am I at the right page number? All that kind of stuff. So that's really helpful. That's what I used to figure out these numbers that you're seeing, the percentage numbers, the page numbers, all of that information. And that's where I got a lot of the information for like what should be in that beat. They just have like real quick, real short descriptions there. I also use the book and got more information. You can read about it, you can read examples. If you go on their website, they have all of these different like beat sheet breakdowns that basically break down different TV shows, movies, books, and analyze all of the different beats and you know how different genres utilize those beats and how the story goes with all that. So find your examples and then put the information into Scrivener, because the more information you have in these little, you know, note sections and synopsis and stuff, the easier setup it'll be for you to actually start writing. You don't have to like move away from what you're actually doing and go research something. If you do all this like plotting setup ahead of time in Scrivener, I found it to be really easy to keep me focused, because you're always gonna have like 50 million questions, you know, while you're writing about random stuff that you need to research. But having like the plotting information in here, so you're not like questioning plot questions, I guess, made it really easy for me to stay focused on this part. Now that your entire plot is in Scrivener, you have all the beats, you have the information about what you should put in each section, each chapter, you have a rough estimate of the page count, then you kind of know how many chapters you need, how much is going on. So now that all of that is done, it is time to customize and put in more specifics. So this is my first time I've done this. I'm not a Scrivener professional, but I decided to mess around with some customization options and just wanted to share what I did. If you go into your settings and click, it's like general settings, and you click appearance, then you get this screen, which you can actually go into for the binder, which is the like left side column. You can choose a specific font for that, and you can actually have it bold every folder. So I went through and I was looking for a font that would kind of match the dark academia, witchy, old scrolls kind of style, and I settled on this one. I thought it looked kind of fun. And then you can actually even choose a background for your binder. So going into your binder and then choosing colors, so fonts, colors, there's a bunch of different customizations there. And I decided to go for like kind of like a light blue. I figured that would kind of match the vibe that I was going for. And then you can actually use the painter tool, and if you had like a photo or something and you want it to be the exact color for it, you could choose that. You can save those colors at the bottom there with the little ink dropper so that you can kind of oscillate back and forth and have them save. So this is what I ended up doing. It made all of my little binder look more customized, and changing that. Then you can actually change the background of your corkboard, which is kind of like this section right here with the opening image and the setup, like that view. So I decided I was going to change the font for all of that. So you can kind of just change the font and details and colors for pretty much every single component. So these are called index cards that are on my cork board, and I just put them, the headers, to the same font. And then I just wanted to be able to read, like for me it was important to be able to read the informational font on those index cards. So I just chose a font that I thought I could read well, that also looked kind of old and fun like that. yeah, so mess around with it, have some fun, and be able to customize your whole binder and Scrivener corkboards and everything as much as you want. So the next thing I did for customization is you want to go into Pinterest or Canva or wherever you get kind of like photos for inspiration. And I have a whole corkboard kind of thing on my Pinterest for this book, for every book I've ever had an idea for. I'm a very visual person. So I went into Pinterest and pulled open some of the ideas and pins and photos and stuff that I had saved on my specific corkboard for this book and decided to pick a photo. First one I chose was a papyrus scroll because that's very relevant to my story, and just kind of like save the photo, download it. I just kind of went through and did a couple options, so pick a couple so that you can use them for some customization, and then you go back into Scrivener and you click Scrivener theme and you click project and project settings, and then you can actually go in to the background images and you can choose them from your file. So basically what we're creating is this. When you go into a certain view, it's like the non-distracted view. When you're writing, you can actually have a background behind your book and just kind of like be much more focused. You know, it could be any theme, but it could be specifically to this book. That's how I plan to use it, is to have like different ones for different projects that I'm working on. So you go into projects, hit project settings, go into background images, and then choose from disk to be able to add photos from your own computer onto this, and then you press the like isolated view button, but you press that button and it goes into this view. So you have the option to choose lots of different backgrounds to be able to kind of make your Scrivener background a little more personal to each book that you're writing, each story, each screenplay, whatever you're doing. You can kind of make it look more the vibes of what you're doing, which to me is really fun. And this is kind of just like the base setup that I want to be doing every time I start a new Scrivener document, is kind of have everything all themed to it so that I'm much more excited to work on these projects, to write, that when I open the document it's just like so themed to what I'm writing. It just looks beautiful, it has lots of customizations, and yeah, so that's part of the customizations you can do. The next area I went in and customized is my places in the like Scrivener binder location. So for each location, we made these little headings earlier, these templates, and I just went through and I chose specific photos for every single location in my book. I went on Pinterest, I found a bunch of photos, and I put them in for inspiration for when I'm writing about these scenes so that I know it. I'm not going to fill out all of the places thing. I'll have to do that in another video because I don't want to spoil my entire book, so I'm not going to fill them all out, but I can show you like a very basic, like how you start it. And basically you just go into one of your places in that template and you can go through and choose one of your settings. There's, just like in each individual card, like where you can add a photo for what you're writing, you can also drop an image into each of the place locations. So I kind of did that for this one. This particular one is my main character's seamstress shop, and putting in some photos for that. And then you basically just write in what it is. You can put like different descriptions underneath. There's so many different components to this, of like, for places it's, you know, the role in the story, related characters, unique features, description, sites, season. So I have a desert in mind, so it's a desert climate. You know, lots of different things you can do with that. You can get as detailed as you want. I just won't be going into it in this video, but it's pretty simple to just kind of change things and write out as much information as you would like. You could even put maps in it. It has like a little spot underneath, put the location in it of like where it is in your city or country. Like you could put the street address, like whatever you got for your story, go ahead and put all the details in there, and anything that is useful for you while you're writing so that you don't forget these things. Especially if, I feel like this is so important if you're writing a series, which is what I'm doing. It's like different locations that we may spend a lot of time in book book 1, but we might not spend tons of time in book 2, but then in book 3, we're gonna go back to a location from book 1. It's very important to have all these details written down, descriptions, all of that kind of stuff, so that when you come back to those locations in later books and have to write about them again, it's like you're not parsing through your own book to try to remember exactly what color you described it as or all those sorts of things. So lots of logical stuff, but the cool thing about Scrivener is they just have these templates already built out for you so that you can kind of save the information and not have to try to keep track of it in like a notebook or something. I imagine you could print a lot of this out. Definitely printed my manuscript from Scrivener before, but I know you can select those templates and stuff as well to print out. So if you did want to have a physical copy of everything, you could as well. Now onto some other customizations. In the notes section is what I kind of went through and started doing. So I put in this aspect of like putting what pages, but I decided to go through all of it and just make everything continually aesthetic. I added emojis, I changed fonts for things, like you can highlight stuff, you can add bullet points, you can do a whole bunch of it. So that is what I ended up doing next, is just going through every single chapter, every single index card, and customizing all of it to do the page numbers and the percent in the story that takes place, or how long it should be, and all of the kind of details made sure it just looked very cute. So I feel like although none of this is necessary, doing stuff like this where you enjoy the space that you're working and like writing in, for me at least, like things looking aesthetic and cute and like organized with a lot of information that I need, and having it all set up with photos and details and everything just makes sitting down to write that much easier for me. So that's why I decided to do all these fun customizations. I know there's a lot more you can do, but this was just kind of like basic customizations that I learned how to do in Scrivener when I was replotting this book and setting it up with all the Save the Cat plot beats, and I wanted to share. So this was it of my replotting my fantasy romance book into Scrivener and doing a lot of Save the Cat beats, all the like customizations, everything. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below, but I am not an expert in Scrivener. I just am learning as I go. I would really like to do a full video of plotting. I was thinking the ACOTAR series, I could do like something like Hunger Games or Harry Potter or anything like that, where I want to put the whole Save the Cat beats and just like go into the nitty gritty and do like a little tutorial video of this. I feel like that'll be fun. Hopefully that'll be helpful. If you have any other ideas or any other videos that you'd like to see that are Scrivener related, I can try to do that for you guys. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful, and have a wonderful day. I'll see you in one of my next videos. Bye!